Thank you very much, Monsignor Thomas. We are here at this moment in time to bear witness and to partake in the handing over ceremony for the Dominican Association of Persons with Disability Office Extension Project. As you can see, this edifice is a new distinguishing landmark on Canal Lane, and it's a modernized, purposefully designed, built, and equipped office and training center for persons living with disabilities. It is a fully accessible and functional working environment which will significantly contribute to the DAPD membership as well as Dominicans living with disability for realizing their dreams and recognizing as well their full productive potential. The desired office building and environment has been in the making for the DAPD for at least the past 20 years. And so being recipients of such a life-changing accomplishment is beyond elation. And indeed, it's a time for celebration. And for all of us as Dominican, we are obligated to join in solidarity and harmony with our brothers and sisters living with disabilities. It is fitting, therefore, to share this noteworthy and praiseworthy achievement with everyone, for both recognizing the contribution of others and for building greater awareness for the cause and well-being of persons living with disabilities. So we have the cadre of officials who are very familiar and knowledgeable with the implementation of the DAPD Office Extension Project, who are very prepared to give in-depth detail of that successfully implemented project. Without any further ado, it is my considered privilege and honor to call upon the Executive Director of the Dominican Association of Persons with Disabilities, Mrs. Nathalie Murphy, to deliver the welcome remarks. And Mrs. Murphy will be assisted by Mrs. Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is my pleasure and distinct honor to welcome all of you who have joined us today for this momentous occasion. I welcome and greet Honorable Dennis Charles, who is representing the Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Joseph Isaac, Speaker of the House of Assembly, Honorable Reginald Ostry, Senior Minister and Minister for Housing and Urban Development, Honorable Addis King, Minister for Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security and Dominicans with Disabilities, Honorable Rosalind Paul, Minister for Sports, Culture, and Community Development, other members of Cabinet, the Permanent Secretary Lucien Blackburn in the Ministry of Sports, Culture, and Community Development, Mrs. Sylvanie Burton, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Youth Empowerment and Development, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities, other Permanent Secretaries, Mr. Matthew Carrett, Project Manager, Basic Needs Trust Fund, Monsignor Eustace Thomas, other distinguished guests, including the Board of Directors of the Dominican Association of Persons with Disabilities, members of the media, other invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Being someone with a sight impairment, I am not able to read out the address that I have prepared to be presented to you today. Unfortunately, it wasn't possible for me to transcribe it in Braille. And so, as persons with disabilities who depend on persons with other types of disabilities and those with no disabilities as well, now and then we have to have assistance. And so I have asked the president of the Dominican Association of Persons with Disabilities to read my script or my address to you all. And I now call on Mrs. Irma Joseph.
Approximately 2 years after the formation in 1983, during one of its regularly held retreats, the need to establish a multi-purpose development center was on the cards for the Dominican Association of Persons with Disabilities. On December 3rd, 20 years ago, the occasion, IDPD, which is the International Day for Persons with Disabilities, the first phase of the development center was commissioned, and it was named the Reginald Roll House, which was the founding member of the movement. Today, as we are now assembled here, it marked the completion and the official commissioning of the center, which we have been promoting to answer to our sustainability and a model in the creation of an all-inclusive, disability-friendly, and physically accessible building. We realize that there are many accessible buildings, but they do not have accessibility. The government headquarters is accessible, but it do not provide the accessibility for persons to go to the different ministry. In 2000, phase 1, which is the secretariat, it was constructed with grant funds provided by the European Union. 5 years later, in 2006, the phase 2, which is the training unit, that was funded by the CDB, BNTF. In 2015, the dormitory section, which was funded by the Japanese Small Grants Project for grassroots human security. And now, this auditorium, the final phase, has been funded by the CDB, BNTF. This facility, we can confidently say, will ease the difficulties which we have been experiencing in obtaining suitable venues to conduct our activities and programs. The completion of this multipurpose development center will now allow us to provide additional services, increase programs to our members on our public education, awareness raising activities and events. But what makes this handing over more special is that we will be putting it into immediate use. For not only were funds donated for the construction of the auditorium, but also for some refurbishing of the ground floor and for the purchasing of equipment, appliances, and important amenities. So any of the ministers, PSCs who are here, the call is there so you can bless the auditorium facility to have your wedding and wedding reception with a small token of appreciation. Earlier, I mentioned that the facility is also designed to serve as a model to others interested in creating a disability-friendly and physically accessible building. However, this is not the only intention. We have also incorporated an aspect of sustainability, like I just mentioned, which will be income generating, that we will be loaning out to all those who are interested to have an accessible place where their people can be comfortable. So we'll be renting it out for seminars, for conferences, meetings, weddings, theatrical presentations, cultural performances. DAPD, we have talented people among us because we say disability is not inability. So we'll be showcasing our artistic skills and our creative abilities that we will put on show. We will expose our talents very soon. Our long-term sustainability is one of the major goals, and we believe that it plays an important part in helping ourselves. Nothing about us without us. We are looking to play our indoor sports of toe ball and table tennis, especially table tennis for the blind. We saw that some equipment was given just last week, and I think we'll be putting out our request to have some equipment so that we can have our table tennis for the blind. Anything that you can do, we can do it too. Come and see us in action. Just 2 weeks ago, on December 3rd, for the 30th anniversary, 30th year, we commemorate a day specifically dedicated to persons with disabilities. And the theme was leadership and participation for persons with disabilities towards an inclusive, accessible, and sustainable post-COVID-19 world. In reviewing some of the past themes for the over 25 years, we note with interest the word inclusive, accessible, and sustainable were used. And it was made mention 12 times, 1999, 2002, 6, 9, 2012, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, 20, and 21. There is no doubt that we at the APD have been and will always be the forerunners. We lead, oh no, I cannot say that. We started it. We are 38 years in existence, and we expect the others to follow suit. This, no doubt, through our unending advocacy, awareness raising, and public education programs. This, as you can see and you will see better, is indeed a majestic structure, one that is to all, they stand in awe when they look at the building. We at DAPD, we are very happy that we have come to this final phase. We were happy to note that in the radio address by the Honorable Addis King for International Day for Persons with Disabilities, that one of our most ready and waiting gift of the National Commission, we hope will soon be instituted. We eagerly await further word to this regard. And like we say in the disability movement, our minister, nothing about us without us. In your planning and execution, remember us. The completion and commissioning of this multipurpose development center is a living testimony of the importance of goals setting, and we have no intention to stop here. It is not easy to have an institution to survive for 38 years. Because of dedication, determination, we have come this very long way. If we can do it, others can do it too. Madam Minister, the Prime Minister is not here, but I'm saying this on our behalf to you, to him, that we would like to take the opportunity to say that we have been trying our best, and we are hoping that we can have an audience with the Honorable Prime Minister. There are things we want to talk to him about, and we would be happy if he was here today. And it would be nice, like we had one year, that the entire cabinet could be with us. The handing over and dedication of the completion of this multipurpose development center is another historic day for the Dominican Association of Persons with Disability. Just join us and say, this is the day that the Lord hath made. Let us all rejoice and give thanks. I thank you for your courtesies and kind attention. And we tell you, you are welcome today to see, and you are welcome to contribute tomorrow. Thank you.
Indeed, we take very close note and advise of your proclamation that goal setting is of tremendous importance. And of course, it has to be backed up by consistent, persistent action and commitment. So, of course, we understand your elation for experiencing that here today. Thank you very much, Mrs. Murphy and Mrs. Joseph. Let's give them a round of applause, please. As I said to you, there are a number of persons and institutions involved in what we're seeing today, and we want to ensure we allow adequate opportunity for everyone to be so informed. So it is for me an honor to call on the project manager for BNTF to give us a very brief project overview. Mr. Carrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Dennis Charles, representing the Honorable Prime Minister. Honorable Joseph Isaac, Speaker of the House of Assembly. Honorable Reginald Austri, Senior Minister and Minister for Housing and Urban Development. Honorable Rosalind Paul, Minister for Sports, Culture and Community Development. Honorable Dr. Addis King, Minister of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities. Other members of Cabinet, Mrs. Sylvanie Burton, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security, Citizen Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities. Other Permanent Secretaries, Mrs. Nathalie Murphy, Executive Director, Dominican Association of Persons with Disabilities. Mrs. Irma Raymond Joseph, President of the Dominican Association of Persons with Disabilities. Monsignor Eustace Thomas, other distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Today for us marks the continuation of a journey that we started with the DAPD in 2006 under the BNTF 5 program. When you look at your program, you'll see what existed before and what we have now. I recall our first meetings with DAPD when all that existed was the timber powerhouse. And then under the BNTF 5 program, we were able to give this horizontal extension, which cost about $93,000. We know that more was requested, but at the time, these are all the funds that we had available. Under BNTF 7, the request for continuation was revisited. And this project was actually in the pipeline for serious consideration under the BNTF 7 program. But as fate would have it, in 2015, with the passage of Tropical Storm Erica and the destruction caused to many of the water systems, priorities had to be shifted. And so this program or this project was one of many which was deferred to BNTF 9. We know, as was mentioned, the association got further funding from the Japanese organization to put another extension. So today we are here to witness what has been long in coming, but what has finally arrived. So what did we do? In an effort to build back better, the existing timber house was totally demolished and replaced for concrete facility or a concrete building with a concrete roof, you can see, which allows for further extension if necessary. The other new works included providing a floor to the area that was covered by BNTF and funding from the Japanese Association. So that concrete section of floor was placed to create this auditorium, which has been talked about and which has been so needy. While looking at some of my files, I recognized that even as far back as 2006, the project was approved then as the DAPD Development Center. So that tells me that there has been this, and we know that that was just part of one phase towards a master plan or vision that the association had in ensuring that today would become a reality. It has been a long journey, but the journey was worth waiting, and the journey, we have come to that realization. One of the key components of this facility, which must not be taken lightly, and it was alluded to early on, was the desire to make this facility user-friendly. And you can see this ramp, which has been built or constructed to ensure that persons on wheelchair can easily access the auditorium. We had discussions with the consultant to ensure that in the design of this facility or of the ramp, it was done in such a manner that it was not too steep, so that persons on wheelchairs could easily maneuver. We see here that we have another external staircase. And other works included the remodeling of downstairs to allow for kitchen, washrooms, office storage, and a visitor waiting area. And upstairs, a timber stage was erected in the auditorium. Part of what we do at BNTF is to complement the infrastructure where financially possible with equipment and furniture. So to that end, in addition to wonderful facility that you see here, we also provided furniture and equipment, chairs, desks, folding tables, cabinets, etc., to the tune of $44,544. So all this for donations to DAPD. I just want to mention that in our initial design, there was consideration for an elevator to the shaft. However, I must mention that due to high costs, because that was quoted then, and when we actually sourced a supplier, it was exorbitant, high inflation costs. We could not afford to put that component. We are hoping that maybe under some other phase of BNTF, we cannot promise, or through other funding with beneficiaries, that can become a reality. But what we did to further augment this facility, we are adding a few things which will be done very soon. And these include the covering of the ramp. We are also providing a 1,000-gallon water storage tank in the event of emergency. We're also going to install a security system And then at the two entrances, by the ramp and by the stair, we will have metal gates. So all these are in an effort to really make this facility as comfortable and ready as possible. So as was alluded to earlier, this has been long in coming, but I say that it was a journey worth waiting, and the care that we took to ensure that many things were considered, to make it as friendly as possible to the disability movement. And today, it is really a proud moment for us to be here to witness this grand opening. Before I leave, I just want to pay homage to my staff, my hardworking staff at BNTF, who has been with me, giving me full support all the way. So I have to acknowledge the efforts and all what they have done to really help me, because I couldn't do it alone. We work as a team, as a family, and that is what we have produced for you, persons with disabilities. So I just want to thank you, and I hope, as was mentioned, that all your dreams, all your plans, all your programs can be brought to a fruitful and successful reality. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carrot. I also want to highlight the critical importance of ensuring we look at added value and continuous value as we go along. So while the procurement of the mechanical lift had to be omitted at this point because of the prohibitively high acquisition costs, however, it is of high interest to note the provision has been made within the design of the structure for as soon as the slave can be procured, it will be installed in position. So it's a modular process, so it will be a next phase. It's not if, it's a question of a situation of when. As rightly mentioned by Mr. Carrot about comfort of the building, but I think in addition to comfort, we can certainly underscore safety, security, and most importantly, as was said by the executive director, a fully functional office and training center. The functionality is the order of the day. I couldn't help but to take note when he mentioned the effort of the staff, and I, as the permanent secretary in the ministry, really want to say sometimes I think they're like a peeve with me, but they know it's for the betterment. But I can really say the level of commitment and readiness to serve by the community liaison officer, Ms. Scarlett Walsh, is beyond comparison. The newly entries that we have in the person of Ms. Rhonda Linton as the monitoring and evaluation officer speak volume. If the contractor, I see she's sitting next to Greg, but Greg is laughing today, but sometimes you figure she's a pain, and she has to make sure that she sticks the needle of pain into him to ensure we get what we deserve. And similarly as well, he who pays the piper calls the tune. Mistress Napoli, another Napoli, Daryl Riviere, and I stress the Riviere because it's from Maho, and you know Maho people are very terrestrial. So she is the accounting and administrative officer, and of course is ensuring that our full package and performance is done. So I really want to say a big round of applause for the staff for their hard work and dedication. And on this note, it's by no coincidence we have Dr. King with us, and I can attest to that. These two ministries have a lot of commonalities. We have a lot of synergies. The PS is a good, able friend of mine, and as well as the Honorable Minister. So we are very fortunate to have the company and the camaraderie of the ministry responsible for youth development and empowerment, youth at risk, gender affairs, senior security, and Dominicans with disability with us today. And it's for me a pleasure and honor to call to the podium Honorable Dr. King to give us a remark. Dr. King.
Honorable, what's called Dennis Doctor? Honorable Dennis Charles, representing the Prime Minister. Honorable Joseph Isaac, Speaker of the House of Assembly. Honorable Reginald Austri, Senior Minister and Minister for Housing and Urban Development. Honorable Roslyn Paul, Minister for Youth, for Sports, Culture and Community Development. Other honorable members of Cabinet, Mr. Lucian Blackmore, OMC today, and Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Sports, Culture and Community Development. Mrs. Sylvanie Burton, Permanent Secretary within our ministry, the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Seniors and Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities. Other Permanent Secretaries, Mrs. Nathalie Murphy, Executive Director of the Dominica Association of Persons with Disability. Mrs. Irma Raymond Joseph, President of the Association. Mr. Matthew Carrott, Project Manager of the Basic Needs Trust Fund. Monsignor Eustace Thomas, other distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. A pleasant good afternoon to you all. Today is indeed a red letter day in the developmental process of the differently abled in Dominica. Persons with disabilities in Dominica are able with a difference, and we have gathered here today to celebrate this universally designed space. This structure is indeed beautiful and strong. I am truly impressed. As Irma said, it's magnificent or majestic, right? Very good. As Minister of Responsibility for Dominicans with Disability, I consider this handing over of this facility, which is fully accessible for use by the Dominica Association of Persons with Disabilities and its affiliates, as a milestone achievement. It has been long coming. On October 1st, 2012, Dominica ratified the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. In 2012, my government was particularly perceptive, having identified echoes of the upcoming global call for inclusion of all persons in the development process. It is worth noting too that Article 9 of that convention speaks importantly of the absolute need for persons with disabilities to have access to their physical environment, which undoubtedly will contribute to the enhancement of their full participation in programs and activities of their communities. Essentially, the UN Convention emphasizes the importance of the role of those persons in all aspects of society and development, whilst respecting their rights and their dignity. Indeed, their rights and dignity are not separate from those of us who deem ourselves able. Clearly, persons with disabilities have goals to achieve, and my government, the DLP government, is determined to support them. This building secures for them a permanent space, a place from which to strategize, find and build friendships among themselves. Here in Dominica, as we work towards achieving the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, we must recognize that persons with disabilities, for what they are, effective agents of change whose contributions bring enormous benefits to our society. Today, this newly constructed facility, which cost over $800,000, is timely, well thought of, and is a clear demonstration of the DLP government's commitment to the well-being and development of our persons with disabilities here in Dominica. This is indeed a historic achievement. This facility will help all of us better understand the importance of the empowerment and equality for persons with disabilities as we work towards the sustainable development of our country. Again, let me reiterate, this facility has been built to accommodate persons with disabilities with easy access to all. I want, on behalf of my ministry and the Dominican Association of Persons with Disabilities and their affiliates, to express thanks to our government, the Basic Needs Trust Fund, and the Caribbean Development Bank for the assistance in making this project a reality. I urge you, members of the DAPD, to collaborate with other agencies and persons with disabilities, and let us use this facility as a model for future projects like this one. Keep in mind that in this place, you should develop friendship. Friendship strengthens bodies, minds, and spirits. And who is more knowledgeable about each other than yourselves to enhance your relations and make bonds of friendship? Your work and meeting space is also a healing place. When you gather, let it be for the good of those who gather and for those who would wish to be here with you but are unable. Keep your friendships alive, and in addition to the spirit embodied in this magnificent, right? Majestic structure, I am convinced that your collective well-being and your will to thrive will shine on. I thank you.
I can certainly attest to your genuine joy. So hence, the emotion will effervesce in that way. Dr. King, it is indeed a really honor to see the level of commitment that you have had to this job. And we should be in Dominica, be really celebrating our victories. I mean, we're one of the few countries in the world, if not the only country in the world, with a ministry and a minister dedicated for persons living with disability. And this is truly an honor to have in any church. On this note, it's a matter of enhancing the community in which we live. So community development is a cornerstone to all this. And so me, it is a pleasure and absolute honor to call to the podium Minister responsible for sports, culture, and community development, Honorable Rosalind Paul.
Indeed, today, this is a day that the Lord has made. It is one in which we have to rejoice greatly, I would say. Let me recognize Honorable Joseph Isaac, Speaker of the House of Assembly, Honorable Dennis Charles, representing the Prime Minister, Honorable Reginald Austri, Senior Minister and Minister for Housing and Urban Development, Honorable Dr. Addis King, Minister of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities, other members of Cabinet, and particularly our newest member of Cabinet, Honorable Vince Henderson, Permanent Secretary, P.S. Blackmore, Permanent Secretary Sylvanie Burton, other Permanent Secretaries, Mrs. Nathalie Murphy, Executive Director, Dominica Association of Persons with Disabilities, Mrs. Irma Raymond Joseph, President of the Dominica Association of Persons with Disabilities, Mr. Matthew Carrett, Project Manager of the Basic Needs Trust Fund, and other members of staff as well of the Ministry of Sports, Culture, and Community Development. Mosea Eustace Thomas, other distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, once again, a pleasant evening to you. Today's handing over ceremony represents a significant milestone for the government of Dominica, the Basic Needs Trust Fund, and persons with disabilities. It is a major milestone for the BNTF in particular in fulfilling its mandate for improving the incidence of prosperity through an inclusive approach to community development. The commissioning of this modern state-of-the-art, and it has been described as majestic, utterly user-friendly building is indeed transformational for persons living with disability. Such an impactful achievement is not only going to uplift the safety, comfort, and occupational security of the users, but equally, it is an effective means of enhancing the economic well-being of Dominicans living with disabilities. It is definitely a cherished moment today for us all and deserving of celebration with persons living with disability. And I must add, it is a wonderful gift indeed at this joyous season of Christmas. The handing over today of this specialized office building designed and built for persons living with disabilities is the first of 7 infrastructural projects implemented on the BNTF 9 program. This means today we are commissioning 1 and we have 6 other such projects to commission shortly. It marks the end of the construction journey, which started with the groundbreaking ceremony on September 3rd, 2020. So the groundbreaking took place right here on September 3rd, 2020. And the project was completed 11 months later on August 6, 2021, at a cost of $833,000. The entire project package, however, comprised of the both construction and furnishing of the building at a total cost of $877,549. Today's ceremony also celebrates the long-standing collaboration and valued partnership between the government of the Commonwealth of Dominica and the Caribbean Development Bank, a relationship established since 1979, some 42 years ago, and through this partnership has tremendously addressed poverty alleviation issues in Dominica. Basic Needs Trust Fund is the main vehicle of the government in partnership with CDB for pursuing poverty reduction through the provision of basic infrastructure, skills training, and improved livelihoods. It also allows us to meet the imperatives of the 2020 Agenda for Sustainable Development, including the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goal 1, ending poverty in all its forms. In planning for the Basic Needs Trust Fund 9, CDB, in its socioeconomic review, noted that Dominica, like many Basic Needs Trust Fund participating countries, face a number of challenges inherent to small, open economies with limited diversity in production and extreme vulnerability, which is exacerbated by natural hazards and climate change. And we know we have experienced that. We've experienced Tropical Storm Erika and Hurricane Maria. So we know that we are extremely vulnerable. And that is why the Basic Needs Trust Fund under the Ministry of Community Development is making a great impact in addressing such vulnerabilities. persons with disability have had limited opportunities for training and social programs to help improve their lives and enable them to be integrated as active members of the wider society. DAPD has been trying to fill this void with programs offered at its development center, but these have had been limited by the existing facility at the time. This limited capacity of the center makes it difficult for DAPD to do so. So it made it difficult for them to do so. But today, with this upgraded facility, it will help the association to overcome so many of these limitations. It will allow DAPD to provide a wider variety of training programs, both to its members, caregivers, and other members of the public. The expanded center will also enable DAPD to attract new members, expand and improve its services to them, and provide new opportunities for improved quality of life. The facility will also ensure that persons with disability continue to have a voice and that DAPD's program and activities can be increased and sustained. This center, located at Canal Lane, Goodwill Roseau, where we are, is located on lands donated by the government of Dominica. So this indicates to you the long partnership and contribution of our government in ensuring that people with disabilities can enjoy the rights, can enjoy access to resources for their own development. Also, it was defined, or it was described, the several phases which brought us to this stage today, and that in 2006, BNTF also provided a phase 2 of the project provided for training and expansion of the ground floor. This provides evidence, testimony of our government's priority focus on the rights and the needs of people with disabilities. We ensure, as a Dominica Labour Party government, that no one is left behind. The new and improved structure includes a completed floor, a completed top floor that will serve as an auditorium, and as indicated, will not only provide for training and services, but can be used for income generation for the DAPD, such as renting it for your wedding. So those of you, or those of us getting married, we can take note of that. Okay, it also has ground floor, kitchen, washroom, offices, storage, and a visitors waiting area. It has a fire escape, and we speak of security. It has ramps all around that the people, everyone can access, especially persons with disabilities. And it includes procurement of furniture, as has been described before. So, as I said earlier, it is a very tremendous gift, and it makes very visible the remarkable partnership that we have between BNTF, DAPD, the government of Dominica, and the CDB, and how it allows for the development of people across the border. I want to take the opportunity to congratulate the Dominica Association of People with Disabilities, but also to thank the Basic Needs Trust Fund project manager and staff, and the ministry, the permanent secretary, and other staff in the Ministry of Sports, Culture, and Community Development. And I want to take this opportunity to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, and to remember that Jesus is the reason for the season. I thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Honorable Paul, our Minister. On this note, as was said by Minister Paul, and of course echoed as well by Minister King, government places tremendous importance on ensuring there's inclusive development in this country and no one is left behind. And to really mark that, the PM wasn't able to make it today, but he ensured that he was still represented. So for me, it's a profound honor and privilege to call to the podium Honorable Dennis Charles, representing the Honorable Prime Minister. Honorable Charles.
Thank you, PS. Good afternoon and seasoned greetings, everyone. Let me recognize the presence of Honorable Joseph Isaac, Speaker of the House of Assembly, Honorable Reginald Austry, Senior Minister and Minister for Housing and Urban Development, Honorable Rosalind Paul, Minister for Youth, Sports, Culture and Community Development, Honorable Dr. Addis King, Minister of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Senior Security and Dominicans with Disabilities, other honorable members of Cabinet, permanent secretaries, Mr. Lucian Blackmore and Mrs. Sylvanie Burton, Mrs. Nathalie Murphy, Executive Director, Dominica Association of Persons with Disabilities, Mrs. Irma Raymond Joseph, President of the Dominica Association of Persons with Disabilities, Mr. Matthew Carrett, Project Manager, Basic Needs Trust Fund, Monsignor Eustace Thomas, staff of BNTF and Community Development, other distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin today by acknowledging all the Dominicans with disabilities and those present here. I am indeed honored to be a part of this special occasion. I bring you warm greetings on behalf of the Honorable Prime Minister, who holds you very dear to his heart and would have loved to be here, but regrettably had another pressing engagement. Today is a giant step for persons living with disabilities in Dominica, as it amplifies the importance of inclusion and reinforces the principles that issues concerning persons with disabilities should not and cannot be treated in isolation, but rather can only be achieved through their active participation. The DLP government views this day with importance. We seek to ensure that access issues for people with disabilities have the same importance today as on every day when making policy decisions and in building dynamic Dominica. With our infrastructural upgrades, whether it is within the modernization of our city in terms of disability-friendly sidewalks and crossings, our new state-of-the-art hospital, other modern facilities, and in the provision of services, we ensure that the needs of persons with disabilities are factored in the planning process. We have to continue to strive as a country that persons with disabilities have equal access to employment, training, and other opportunities so they can obtain their independence, be self-reliant, and fully participate in society. So, we have to continuously increase awareness and understanding of disability issues and the gains to be derived from the integration of people with disabilities in every aspect of life. And as Honorable Paul said, this Roosevelt-Skerrit-led administration intends to leave no one behind. As Minister King stated, we ratified the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities in October 2012 to cement this solidarity. Further, we were more inclined to ratify the convention as it is the legal tool for ensuring that people living with disabilities have access to the same rights and privileges as everyone else. This convention challenges people worldwide to understand that someone with a disability should have equal opportunity for inclusion in the economic, and social enabling environment. By jointly undertaking this project, it demonstrates the government's commitment to protecting the rights and the needs of persons with disabilities. From the perspective of national goals and interests, the government of Dominica, through this BNTF 9 funded project, has been able to achieve just that. The Dominica Association of Persons with Disabilities is the overarching entity representing all persons living with disabilities in Dominica. This newly enhanced, majestic, multi-purpose structure shall enable the DAPD to continue to empower all persons with disabilities, individually and collectively. Under this project, the members of the DAPD have just made their voices louder in propagating greater awareness nationally, regionally, and even internationally. Persons wishing to return or visit Dominica should feel more at ease being in a country where they know they have genuine representation. This is because through this project, persons living with disabilities are now equipped with enhanced facilities which will enable them to implement better systems and programs with greater ease. They will have a better working environment, an atmosphere which will empower them to take immediate actions and seek adequate responses to address their specific needs. We can now look forward to trainings and seminars facilitating up to 200 persons per session, as opposed to a mere 20 persons in the past. There has been potential for both an expanded membership and increased demand for services to the significant group of persons across the country. Unfortunately, the previous limited capacity of the center made it difficult to do so. With this upgraded national center, we can now have better institutional capacity. The DAPD exemplifies the benefits of collaboration and partnership and the overall advantage that different focus groups working together can achieve common goals more purposefully. DAPD would not be at this important juncture were it not for the social and economic generosity of the partnership of the Caribbean Development Bank and the government of Dominica. The vision of the government and the CDB are intertwined and focus at reducing the incidence of poverty and building resilience through an inclusive community development approach. Mr. Carrett and his team have never failed to responsibly deliver their projects. Having such a high achievement rate is not something attained just by having knowledge of the work. The BNTF team shows that success is hinged on expertise, skills, application, and commitment. I thank you, Mr. Carrett, and your team. It would be remiss of me to leave without acknowledging the minister, the permanent secretary and his staff, the project oversight entity, the consultant and contractor, and everyone who have put in the maximum effort to achieve this impressive structure. We thank you for your valuable contribution and for bringing such comfort and joy to Mrs. Murphy and the rest of the DAPD membership. I must recognize Mrs. Murphy and her team for their outstanding commitment, fortitude, and hard work, which have contributed to the success of the DAPD. Your leadership and persistence have certainly made a marked difference in the lives of persons living with disabilities nationwide. You and your team are proof that persons living with disabilities can surely achieve greater feats despite the challenges confronted on a daily basis. Let us, the people of Dominica, use this resolve to fortify ourselves. Let us strive to overcome the challenges of today and tomorrow. Let us seek to make our society more inclusive of differently abled persons. Strength and growth come only through continuous effort and inspiration. Let me reiterate to everyone here today in person and listening, you never know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice. This is a page I have taken from your book today. Merry Christmas. And as Honorable Paul said again, what a wonderful gift to receive in this Christmas season. I want to encourage all citizens and businesses, especially in this season of sharing and bringing cheer and joy, to support and contribute to the efforts of the DAPD. May God continue to bless you and bless our country.
Thank you very, very much, Honorable Charles, representing the Honorable Prime Minister. Our next order of business is vote of thanks, but I want to just tell you, it won't signify the end of our celebration today, since the event to come after that will be the cutting of the ribbon and blessing of the building. So we allowed for the vote of thanks, and then for the cutting of the ribbon. And because we're in COVID, we'll ensure in a COVID environment, we'll have to take a walkthrough for the building. And on this note, I say with much purpose and pleasure how it is at this point to introduce Mrs. Sylvanie Burton, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry for Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Seniors, Security, and Dominicans living with disability to deliver the vote of thanks. P.S. Burton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Honorable Dennis Charles, representing the Honorable Prime Minister. Honorable Joseph Isaac, Speaker of the House of Assembly. Honorable Reginald Ostry, Senior Minister and Minister for Housing and Urban Development. Honorable Rosalind Paul, Minister for Sports, Culture and Community Development. Honorable Dr. Addis King, Minister of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Seniors Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities. Other honorable members of Cabinet, P.S. Blackmore, my colleague, and other permanent secretaries, Mrs. Nathalie Murphy, Executive Director, Dominica Association of Persons with Disabilities, Mrs. Irma Raymond Joseph, President of the Dominica Association of Persons with Disabilities, Mr. Matthew Carrett, Project Manager, Basic Needs Trust Fund, Monsignor Eustace Thomas, other distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good afternoon to you. Today, we must give thanks and praise to God, the Almighty Father, for having brought us thus far in the development process of our beautiful island home, Dominica, and more so in achieving a huge step in the structural development for the differently abled in our society. This newly constructed facility for the Dominica Association of Persons with Disabilities is a clear demonstration of the commitment of government in ensuring that no one in society is left behind. I take this opportunity on behalf of the collaborating ministries, that of the Ministry of Sports, Culture and Community Development, and the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, Youth at Risk, Gender Affairs, Seniors, Security, and Dominicans with Disabilities, to express our sincerest thanks to Honorable Dennis Charles, who is here today representing our Honorable Prime Minister. We are very cognizant that this government continues to hold special esteem and also concern for the most vulnerable in our society. To Honorable Rosalind Paul, we say a hearty thank you to you and your ministry. That includes P.S. Blackmore and the other members of the oversight entity for their active role in providing leadership and oversight to the BNTF implementing agency. Also, the implementing team at the Basic Needs Trust Fund, Mr. Carrett and his team, for their continued hard work and diligence in ensuring the successful implementation of this project. Honorable Dr. Addis King, thank you for your continued words of encouragement to all the differently abled persons in Dominica. Based on our interactions, I can assure the differently abled, and in particular the DAPD, that they have a reliable friend in you as the Minister for Dominicans with Disabilities. To all the other cabinet ministers and parliamentarians present here this afternoon, we are very grateful for your participation in this ceremony. This sends a clear message and demonstrates a clear commitment by government in the overall development of our persons with disabilities. A heartfelt thank is also extended to key personnel from the Caribbean Development Bank in the persons of Mr. George Yearwood, Portfolio Manager, who was scheduled to be here with us today, Ms. Hannah Clarendon, Division Chief of the Social Sector, and Ms. Idra Marquis, the hardworking Supportive Operations Officer. I wish to express our gratitude from the government and people of Dominica to the CDB for its continued financial and technical assistance towards the development of our communities. Though we sometimes complain of the length of time prior to the receipt of resources, we must say that we are very thankful. This BNTF project will in fact make a huge difference for the beneficiaries. I must also express thanks to the Project Monitoring Committee for their dedication and active role in monitoring and supervision during the implementation of the project. Thanks also to the consulting firm represented by Mr. Greg Fortune and to the contractors, construction and industrial equipment for the due diligence played to the needs of the beneficiaries during construction of the facility. Your understanding of the needs of this special group was well received. Thank you to the Executive Director and members of the Dominica Association of Persons with Disabilities. Special mention must be made of the unwavering support and commitment given by Mrs. Murphy and, of course, Mrs. Joseph to the project. Today, this dream has become a reality for the association and its affiliates. Based on the proposed activities to be undertaken here and the enthusiasm of the DAPD, this will definitely be a game changer for their members, who will now have a suitable facility to further develop their capacity as well as a place for recreation. To Monsignor Eustace Thomas, thank you for the opening prayer and the blessings which will be done soon. Let everything that have breath praise the Lord. To the media or the invited guests, the listening public, and those who assisted in one way or the other in making this ceremony today a huge success, I say thank you and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, PS. And just again to give the public an appreciation of how intertwined that the work of the public service is. You were so in depth, but yet still, it would be remiss of me not to single out Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Protocol Service, and in particular, Ms. Vinson and Ms. White, that so diligently ensure that the honors are done in accordance to best practice. Of course, I should also single out the Events Planning Committee. The events sometimes look very simple, but there's a lot of work to be done. The able Assistant Secretary and the team, the sports coordinator, of course, the project manager, local government commissioner, Mr. Glenroy Toussaint, who is also a member of the Oversight Committee, the dedicated men at the local government office, the transporters and footboys, always so willing and able. Of course, it would be remiss of me not to mention Kelson and his team. At a minute's notice, they will be there. Arden Song, they're responsible for the tents. And of course, I know this, even if I say the last, my secretary who have to steer it all, Miss Bell. Thanks a lot. And on this note, it is the hour of the moment to ask Honorable Charles, who is representing the Prime Minister, and of course, Mrs. Nathalie Murphy, the Executive Director, to go to the fore and to do the cutting of the ribbon. And that would be followed by the blessing of the building by Monsignor Thomas. And then we have to allow the honor of the head table and the honorable ministers and senior official at the front to inspect the building after the blessing. So we'll now call on Honorable Charles and Mrs. Murphy to do the cutting of the ribbon to the building. Right. Let's have a round of applause for the ribbon benefits. Thank you, Honorable Charles, and thank you, Mistress Murphy, for the privilege. We will now have the blessing building by Monsignor Thomas. So,
and willingly work with the tools of his trade. By working with his own hands, transform the toil from being an inherited curse for sin into a source of blessing. If we do our work well, whatever it may be, and offer it to God, purify ourselves and improve the labor of our hands and minds to build up God's kingdom. Our work enables us to practice charity and to help the less fortunate. So join Christ the Redeemer with you in his love. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. O God, our all-provident Father, you have placed earth and its fruits on our care, so that our labor will endeavor to ensure that all share benefits of the creation. Bless this building and those who use it, either in terms of a shelter or as an office, so that by respecting justice and charity, they will see themselves as working for the common good and find joy in contributing to the progress of the earth and the city. And we thank you for all those involved in making this building a reality. May God, the Father of goodness, command us to help one another as brothers and sisters. Bless this new building with his presence, and look kindly in all who enter here. May mighty God bless, protect, heal, and deliver us, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Vậy thì sao tụi con chạy có kịp cái trình đâu rồi? What are you doing, my shop?
Well, that's it. I don't want to be in your shop. I expect to be there behind you.
You go check. What you right in front of me, what you have about? Come on. Huh? What's that? Yeah.
Not for honest woman.
Downstairs too.